Human rights is, geez, that's a good question.
Human rights. Well, that's a tough one.
Wow.
I don't even know how to give that a definition.
I would probably have to do a little bit of homework or something.
Any right that I think just as a normal, human, any...
The rights that humans have.
Oh, that's a very large debate.
Tú le puedes preguntar a 20 personas y te van a dar 20 diferentes opiniones.
Non saprei, una domanda complicatissima.
We just take them for granted that they're there, but we don't even consider what they are.
Human rights are the rights you have simply because you're human. It's how you instinctively expect and deserve to be treated as a person, like the right to live freely, to speak your mind, and to be treated as an equal. There are many kinds of rights. Most apply to a certain group. But human rights are the only ones that apply to absolutely everyone, everywhere. That means kids, old people, poor people, basketball players, garbage men, rappers, teachers, Africans, Indians, Albanians, Christians, Muslims, Kabbalists, atheists, your mom, your dad, your next-door neighbor, and you all have the exact same human rights. In other words, they're universal. But the question remains, what are they?
Name the human rights?
What the human rights are?
The right to live.
Equality between all peoples.
Right to religion, the right to...
Is there supposed to be a list somewhere I should be aware of?
According to the United Nations, there are a total of 30 human rights, which are usually lumped together and called simply human rights. They're all listed out in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is the world's most widely accepted document on the subject. But it was a long time in coming. At first, there were no human rights. If you were in with the right crowd, you were safe. If you weren't, well, you weren't. But then a guy named Cyrus the Great decided to change all that. After conquering Babylon, he did something completely revolutionary. He announced that all slaves were free to go. He also said people had the freedom to choose their religion, no matter what crowd they were a part of. He documented his words on a clay tablet known as the Cyrus Cylinder. And just like that, human rights were born. The idea spread quickly to Greece, to India, and eventually to Rome. They noticed that people naturally followed certain laws, even if they weren't told to. They called this natural law, but it kept getting trampled on by those in power. Not until 1,000 years later in England did they finally get a king to agree that no one can overrule the rights of the people, not even a king. People's rights were finally recognized, and they were now safe from those in power. Kind of. It still took a bunch of British rebels declaring their independence before the king got the point that all men are created equal. Which isn't to say he liked the idea, but he couldn't stop them, and America was born. The French immediately followed with their own revolution for their own rights. Their list was even longer, and they insisted that these rights weren't just made up. They were natural. The Roman concept of natural law had become natural rights. Unfortunately, not everyone was so thrilled. In France, a general named Napoleon decided to overthrow the new French democracy and crown himself emperor of the world. He almost succeeded. But the countries of Europe joined forces and defeated him. Human rights was again a hot topic. They drew up international agreements, broadly granting many rights across Europe. But only across Europe. The rest of the world somehow still didn't qualify. Instead, they got invaded, conquered, and consumed by Europe's massive empires. But then a young lawyer from India decided enough was enough. His name was Mahatma Gandhi, and in the face of violence, he insisted that all people of Earth had rights, not just in Europe. Eventually, even Europeans started to agree. But it wasn't going to be that easy. 2 world wars erupted. Hitler exterminated half the Jewish population of Earth in horrifying Nazi death camps. And all told, 90 million people died. Never had human rights been so terrifyingly close to extinction. and never had the world been more desperate for change. So the countries of Earth banded together and formed the United Nations. Their basic purpose was to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights, in the dignity and worth of the human person. But what were human rights? Were they the proclamations of Cyrus, the natural laws of Rome, the declarations of France? Everyone seemed to have a slightly different idea of what human rights should be. But under the supervision of Eleanor Roosevelt, they finally agreed on a set of rights that applied to absolutely everyone. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The French concept of natural rights had finally become human rights. So, in summary, at first, only a few lucky people had any rights, until one of those guys decided, hey, other people should have some rights too, which was great, except not everyone agreed. And it only took a few thousand years of fighting and declarations and more fighting until everyone finally agreed that human rights should apply to everyone. And they all lived happily ever after. Except for one little problem. If people have the right to food and shelter, why are 16,000 children dying of starvation every day? 1 every 5 seconds. If people have freedom of speech, why are thousands in prison for speaking their minds? If people have the right to education, why are over 1 billion adults unable to read? If slavery has truly been abolished, why are 27 million people still enslaved today? More than twice as many as in 1800. The fact is, when it was signed, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights did not have the force of law. It was optional. And despite many more documents, conventions, treaties, and laws, it's still little more than words on a page. So the question is, who will make those words a reality?
I have a dream today.
When Dr. King marched for racial equality, he was marching for rights that had been guaranteed by the United Nations for almost 2 decades. But still, he marched. When Nelson Mandela stood up for social justice in the 1990s, his country had already agreed to abolish such discrimination for almost 40 years. But still, he fought. Those who fight today against torture, poverty, and discrimination are not giants or superheroes. They're people. Kids, mothers, fathers, teachers. Free-thinking individuals who refuse to be silent. Who realize that human rights are not a history lesson. They're not words on a page. They're not speeches or commercials or PR campaigns. They are the choices we make every day as human beings. They are the responsibility we all share to respect each other, to help each other, and to protect those in need. As Eleanor Roosevelt said, where, after all, do universal human rights begin? In small places close to home. So close and so small that they cannot be seen on any maps of the world. Yet they are the world of the individual person, the neighborhood he lives in, the school or college he attends, the factory, farm, or office where he works. Such are the places where every man, woman, and child seeks equal justice, equal opportunity, equal dignity without discrimination. Unless these rights have meaning there, they have little meaning anywhere.
And here we go. Yay!
Hello.
We're back.
New month.
Yeah, that just kind of runs away. So it's June. Yes. All righty. So we're back. This is the Youth for Human Rights radio show here, and I am Andromeda Edison. I'm the president for California for Youth for Human Rights. And I do a lot of speaking, going out and talking and teaching about human rights to our kids, which is great fun. And we have Get a little preview there. We have a guest who has some similar experiences. Yeah. A little more than mine. But then I also have with me Alexandra Rogers. She's the executive producer for our radio show here. She's a volunteer. She comes out with me regularly, hands out booklets, gets information out, and full disclosure, she's my sister.
Yep. All of that's true. All of it.
All of that is true. So we thought we were going to try something a little different this month before we go straight to our guest. We're going to do a little sort of really quick international news summary.
Yeah, a recap kind of what's going on currently.
Because there's, obviously we're here in California. We do a lot of work here for California, but Youth for Human Rights is an international organization, and it's all over the place, and they're doing a lot of really great stuff.
It is.
Everywhere.
Yeah. Because human rights is international. It's human. Everybody has these rights. So let's find out what's going on around the world.
You're way too excited
Sorry,
about
that was loud.
This is how this whole show goes. I'm telling the guests, you realize this is how our show goes. So what actually just finished was a world tour done by the Youth for Human Rights International president and founder, Dr. Mary Shuttleworth. Fabulous, fabulous lady.
She's so cool.
She's so cool.
She's so cool.
She's a grandma. She's been doing this for a long time, and she loves doing it. She's just, yeah, you meet her and you just immediately go, whoa!
Yeah. She loves everyone and loves meeting new children and cultures and things like that. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So she's actually been doing this world tour. She's done this for, is it 14 years? 15 years? Something.
Since 2004.
2004.
Yeah.
So, yeah. She's been touring. She goes all the way around the planet in pretty much a circle, a zigzaggy circle. So she's actually traveled, let's see, what is it? 644,000 miles.
Over. That's like over 1 million kilometers.
That she's traveled the planet teaching human rights. It's kind of cool.
It's really cool. I want to travel more.
I know. So she talks about some of the countries she's visited, and you're like, I want to go there.
Yeah.
So
this past tour,
yeah,
the 2019
Countries.
tour, she traveled through 9 countries and territories, including South Africa, Angola, Ethiopia, Switzerland, Nepal, Taiwan, Japan, Mexico, and even here in the United States in Washington, D.C.
Was part of the tour.
That was part of the tour because they had, what was it? The Human Rights Conference in Capitol Hill. So, yeah.
Which is a 3-day conference, which I've attended before, and it's also a lot of great fun and work, because they put you to work. They make you actually go to Capitol Hill and speak with legislators about sexual trafficking, human rights issues, you know, that kind of thing, which is good to be put to work like that when you go to this conference that they have in D.C.
Yeah.
It's very, very fun.
She had meetings held with the youth, educators, community leaders, and legislators, as well as various dignitaries.
She meets, I mean, yeah, she's going to say, she like knows some people who you go, wow, you know this person? He's like, yeah, I visited. He called me up to say he was in town. And I'm like, he's like a king of a country. And she knows these people.
Kings, presidents, officials of the United Nations and Commonwealth nations. Like, she can call these people up and be like, I want to come and help educate in your country, in your society, in your territory. And they'll help set it up with her because she's that cool.
Yeah, she's just cool. Can you tell we like her? We kind of like Mary Shuttleworth. She's just a doll. So that's
what we have for now.
That's
for
our little wrap
news.
for international news. We're going to try and do
happens.
that each month and give you a little recap.
Yeah.
So now,
actually, right now we're going to show a quick PSA. We're going to start with our.
She's in charge.
Thank you. We're going to start with the human rights of number 1 and show our PSA of we are all born free and equal.
And over to the engineers.
Can you tell which of these children was not born free? Can you tell which of these children was not born equal? Can you tell which of these children does not deserve to be treated with dignity? We can't either. Human right number 1. We are all born free and equal. What are human rights? Find out at youthforhumanrights.org.
Honestly, I think those kids are the cutest kids ever.
I know. I tear up, for like, I've seen that video. I don't know how many times I've seen that video, and I still get a little like, oh.
Yes.
That's what makes you so good at what you do.
Well,
You have to have that.
You have the
have a
emotional
little
When it
connection.
stops affecting you,
then I'm
there's
in
a problem.
trouble.
Yeah.
Good point. Okay, good. Very good point. So our guest today is David Sanchez.
Yes.
Hello. Hello, welcome.
Hi.
So you've created a nonprofit organization called Strike Out Against Drugs.
Correct.
Cool. So I'm going to let you sort of intro yourself. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved in and why you decided to do this.
So I actually wear a lot of different hats. Strike Out Against Drugs is one of the big ones that I created mostly out of concern, mostly out of necessity,
Sure.
and mostly out of what the community needs right now with the drugs and stuff that are being sold, being given to the youth of our communities. I'm also a drug-free world education specialist. I'm also have the largest single address sober living in all of Los Angeles.
Wow.
So every day of my life, 24 hours a day, I deal with addiction, drug prevention,
Right.
and that type of lifestyle. The reason that I do that is because I've lived 40 years as an addict.
Oh, wow.
Started when I was 9 years old with
Oh, my.
marijuana. By the time I was 15, I was a full-blown heroin addict.
Oh.
Never got to live the type of life that a normal person would live, going to school,
Right.
Birthday parties, Christmas, all that kind. And if I was able to go to Christmas or something like that, I was like, okay, you sit in that chair right there and don't move.
And
You know what
we're
I mean?
watching you.
That's the kind of stuff that was going on in my life.
Ah.
I always had these questions, and I get a lot of this question when I do these presentations and stuff, is why? You know what I mean, why
Right.
are people willing to give up everything they love for drugs?
Oh, yeah.
Why are
Yeah.
people willing to give up their freedom for drugs? Why are people willing to give up their children for drugs? And all these questions that kept bothering me of, I didn't have any of these answers to these questions. I knew I wanted to stop. I didn't know how to stop
Right.
because I never was able to answer the questions, why am I doing this stuff? What is the reason that I can't stay off of drugs? What is the reason that I have to do 22 years in prison, get out, and go straight back to drugs?
Right.
What is the reason
Yeah.
that I have to? So when I was able to start to educate myself on the reasons for that question, why, I was able to find out that it actually wasn't my fault. There was this stuff going on in my brain that because of all the stuff that I had been through, my brain was actually giving me a way out to not to feel these certain types of emotions and feelings that
Interesting.
I was going
Kind
through
of go around them.
in my life.
Yeah.
And when I was able to really start studying how addiction really works in the brain, and this isn't the stuff that you're going to learn in treatment. This isn't the stuff probably won't learn in college.
Right.
This is stuff that's a little bit deeper than everything else. And when I finally got to figure out the answers to those questions, I was able to stay abstinent from drugs.
Wow.
So a lot of times when I do presentations, they'll write on the chalkboard, David Sanchez, Strike Out Against Drugs, a recovered addict.
Right.
And I always have to correct them because I'm not a recovered addict, I'm a recovering addict.
Sure.
Because of the psychological part of my addiction that doesn't go away. I mean, the physical part, yes. The psychological doesn't. Every morning that I wake up, I have to make this decision. Even though I have this big sober living, I have Strike Out Against
Right.
Drugs, I have all this stuff that I do in the community with the kids and all that type of stuff, I still have to make a decision every morning that I wake up because I'm an addict.
Yeah.
And that's not going to go away. It's like I have diabetes. Diabetes is not going to go away. I can treat it. I can learn how to deal with it and manage it.
Yeah.
But it's always going to be there, and eventually I'll probably pass away from it. Well, addiction is also a disease because of the psychological component to it. See, everybody. Here's the thing: is
He's going to just keep going.
Everybody thinks about addiction in this, oh, this is so impossible to figure out, and this is so difficult, and nobody could really understand how addiction works, and nobody's really explaining how it actually works. So everybody's got this thought that we'll never really be able to figure it out.
Sure.
They go to treatment, they get touched on a couple of things, but they never really get to figure out what addiction really is and how easy it actually is to understand. I teach it to 9-year-old kids, and they understand
and they can
it.
understand it.
I teach it.
That was one of our things. Was like, so
what
you
do you actually
educate kids?
Oh yes, absolutely.
So, like, what do you do? Where do you go to like educate
So
these kids, and what do you do with them?
I work at the LA Unified School District. I do a lot of high schools and junior high schools. I've done all the Boys and Girls Clubs in Los Angeles. I do community centers. I've worked with the GRID, the LAPD, the LA Sheriff's Department, the VITA program for the Sheriff's Department. Anywhere that I can get in there and give my message and teach them how this stuff works, especially when I'm with the Foundation for a Drug-Free World. We're able to give a message that comes at both angles, because this is the facts about drugs, and this is the true story about drugs.
Yes.
And so combining those two elements to drug prevention, makes this powerful message that I don't know any other organization out there that is giving such a powerful message, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I've looked at a lot of them. Because
Yeah.
I have a lot of them that want to work with me now that used to turn me down when I first started this thing. But they want to work with me.
Now.
They see that you are making the impact, and that people are actually getting the message.
Right. Well, I think a lot of these organizations have turned their passion for change into a passion for profit. So
There's some of them, yeah.
Yeah. So now they've got these grants, or they've got this stuff, and now they just want to sit back and kind of let people send kids to them and stuff like that. But Strike Out Against Drugs, Drug-Free World, we're out there in the grind. We're out there on the streets. We're out there handing our stuff out. We go to them.
Yeah, you're finding the people.
And that's how our philosophy is that way.
Yeah,
we want to get
great.
to them. We want to give the message.
That's great, because that's like that, I don't want to say attack, but kind of the attack mode where we're handling it now, and we're handling it before someone finally goes, oh, I need help.
Right.
So that's great.
Right.
Yeah, it's similar to the Youth for Human Rights in that going out and finding those groups that you need to talk
Absolutely.
to, finding
Right.
that.
Absolutely.
Because even if they're sometimes offered, oh, here's a class over here you can go to,
Right.
doesn't mean they're actually going to go.
Right.
Right.
I don't know if you've experienced, they're still there. They didn't make that trip. They didn't make that drive. You have to go to them.
And that's kind of our mission is, get the message out there, whether it's Youth for Human Rights, whether it's CCHR, whether it's Strike Out Against Drugs, whether it's Drug-Free World. It's like this big team.
Right.
Even though there's not too much, combining the forces, but there's this big team that's kind of covering everything that's going on just between these basically two organizations that are out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't think anybody, I can't name another organization that is out there doing this stuff. And Strike Out Against Drugs was never meant to just be Strike Out Against Drugs. When I came up with the idea of Strike Out Against Drugs and what was going on, it started out with drug because of an incident that happened that made me think, okay, I got to get out here and help these kids.
Start. Yeah.
But it eventually it's going to morph into Strike Out Against Battered Women, Strike Out Against child abuse, Strike Out Against this, Strike Out Against that.
Great.
That's awesome.
Eventually, in the future, as soon as we get this part of it really, really out there to where we could start making some changes and start doing some stuff.
Yeah, I've had some great, I did an education seminar at a college, and one of the ladies who was at the college, they get the anonymous feedback or something later, and she actually mentioned, I was in an abusive relationship, but I really loved him, and I was thinking about going back to him. But now that I know my human rights, I realize that, no, that wasn't actually okay. I'm not going to go back to him.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So it's the knowledge that they don't even have the knowledge. It's so great.
Well, one of the rights that we have as human beings is the right to education.
Right.
Yep.
So a lot of people take that for granted, or people try to explain it in a way that nobody really understands.
Right.
Maybe because they don't want to follow up. So if I just explain it where it's confusing, you'll never come back and ask me again.
You leave me alone.
Type of thing.
Yeah.
I've had professors like that.
But but everybody has that right to be educated on the stuff that's going on in our society. And drugs is one of the biggest,
huge,
monsters that's in our society. Just taking our community and just twisting it into a big knot.
Yep.
There's a war going on. The police are doing what they can, but they're not really making any type of leadway on it, because for every police officer that's out there arresting somebody, there's 5 other dealers that are giving drugs to kids.
Yeah. Right. There's only so much they can do.
Right.
We can't sit back and go, oh, they're going to handle it for us.
Well, like I said, it's a war that we're losing, but it doesn't mean we're going to give up the fight.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? We're still going to be out there, and we're going to fight, and we're going to
educate.
Education is the key to everything.
Yeah. I mean, actually, Human Right number 26 actually says education shall be directed to the full development of the human personality, and to the strengthening of respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms.
Yeah, that's just one part of that.
Yeah.
of number 26 article there.
Well, there's it's sad to say that there's a lot of negative education going on out there. Positive education is something that is going to help somebody develop, somebody that's going to help better their life, help them to make decisions that are good for them, good for others, and be able to fill their mind up with positive things to be able to make these choices in life. Unfortunately, there's a lot of negative influence out there.
Well, the people, as you were saying, profit. They're going to profit from it.
Yeah.
And that makes me miserable almost in some ways.
It makes you really sad.
When you're doing this type of work and you're just looking for profit, it takes away from the passion of helping other people, because you're more worried about them paying you than changing somebody's life. And I got to say, there's, like you were saying before, there is no better feeling in the world than when you have talked to a group of kids and one of them comes up and gives you a hug and says, this is what I'm going through, this is what my family is going through, and I'm able to take this information that you just gave us, and I'm going to go tell my mom about it.
Right.
Or I'm going to go tell my sister about it. Or I'm going to give them this booklet so they can read up about it. And you know that you made this positive impact with the message that you're giving, whether it's drug prevention, whether it's personal rights, whether it's psychiatric stuff like that.
Whatever.
There's just no better. And I get a lot of emails because I give everybody my personal number, my email, everything.
Which is on his website.
Which is on my website.
We'll share it at the end.
You'll be able to call me, and I'll give you either information, whatever it is that you need. If it's something you're feeling like this is going on, I'll come to these young ladies, say, well, this is going on here. You can give her your booklets. I'll give her your number. She can call you, and you guys can discuss that. You know what I mean? And the same, and the opposite way is the same.
Yeah.
And when we work together like that, and we start building this wall of stuff to force to be able to help
positivity
people.
too.
This community.
There's no stopping it, and the negative influence out there will start to diminish eventually.
Yeah.
When we get more and more people involved in the cause, whether what the cause be, just getting everybody involved in it is the key to trying to turn things around. And like I said, it's a war. But we're in the battle, and we're not going to quit, and we're going to keep moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, there's even the from the view of peer pressure, and if you're educating the entire class, then they also aren't going to push each other into it. I have it with bullying a lot. That's a lot of what I address, is how we have to respect each other, and our differences are our differences, but there's nothing, but also even within the drug community, the kids trying to push their fellow
Try
schoolmates.
this new thing.
But do you run into that?
It has a lot to do with personal boundaries. I actually do.
I saw that on your website.
I teach a
explain
course on, I've developed 10 steps to developing, implementing, and using personal boundaries in your life that I teach to the kids. And it's important because it's when kids start going to school, before kids get into school, they're always on their mom's leg.
Right.
Mom is the influence.
She knows that.
Mom
I
is the
have 3 kids.
influence
Yep.
over these children. When they start getting into school and they start interacting with a lot of kids, moms actually starts to lose that influence.
Somewhat,
She
yeah.
got the "you're in trouble" influence. The kids will start doing stuff knowingly that you don't want them to do, just to be able to fit in. The peer pressure, the curiosity, all the stuff that goes along with starting to deal with other kids that are around you.
Right.
And by the time they hit, junior high school, moms has really lost most of the influence
there, yeah.
over them at all. And then it becomes more of
All about the
a
kids
battle
and the
and
peers.
stuff like that. And so the other kids start to have these influences over them. And maybe it's one of the kids that, and I talk about this a lot in my presentations. Some kids are them kids that nobody really wants to walk to school with them. Maybe they didn't get brand new clothes at the beginning of the year.
New shoes.
They have this peer pressure that's either spoken or unspoken peer pressure, because the unspoken is, everybody else got Vans and I didn't. I
Yep.
need some Vans.
Yep.
That's, unspoken peer
I
pressure.
get that.
But then when
I
you
get
get,
I have my 9-year-old who's like, everybody else has a phone. I'm like, you're not getting a phone at 9 years old. I don't care.
but everybody else
Everybody has
has
a
one.
phone. No.
So she's feeling pressure to get one.
Yeah.
Because everybody else has one.
Exactly.
She wants to feel part of the group.
Part of
She
the
doesn't want to
group.
say, hey, can I borrow your phone so I can make a phone call?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or 9 years
on it.
old.
Right, and that creates a separation from what she's really supposed to be doing in school. Because we didn't have phones when I was in
No,
school.
I didn't.
I didn't either.
We didn't even have money for the phone booth.
No, I didn't even have
And
change.
so we teach them that kind of stuff, how to deal with that kind of stuff through personal boundaries, developing personal boundaries
Wow.
in their life, keep implementing them, and then using them on an everyday basis
That's
from
great.
beginning to end.
That's great.
Wow. That sounds like
Absolutely.
something I should incorporate into the bullying seminars that I do.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I've done those.
And we teach
We'll have to talk more.
about coping skills, different types of coping skills. I teach my clients in my facility how to cope, because they're dealing with their addiction and
Right.
stuff like that. So we teach them how to redirect their mind into positive stuff instead of going to what their brain is actually telling
Yeah,
them,
all
go
that
use
negative,
drugs, so you don't
dark
have to fill this
stuff.
stuff, into positive things that God-given talents and things like that that they
Right.
can do.
That you
Yeah.
can be productive by using your skills and your art and your good thoughts.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
One of the things that I like that you talked about briefly, and I was actually curious if you have other people come in and tell about their experiences. Like you talk to kids about, oh, I've had experience with this, and let me tell you what the effects were and why it's not okay to use it. Like, is that true?
I do.
Okay.
I bring people from my facility, but I'm very iffy on that sometimes because
Okay.
I am talking to children.
Sure.
And when I first started Strike Out Against Drugs, I used to have to get a consent form.
Right.
Parents had to sign it because they didn't know what
Sure.
was going to come out
What
of
was
my
gonna
mouth.
come out of your
They
mouth.
thinking, okay, this guy has been in prison his whole life. He's a drug addict. He's a gang member. He's all this type of stuff. We're not just going to let him just talk to our kids.
Just willy-nilly.
And after a while, working with the LA Unified School District
started
and stuff
trusting
like
you.
that, after a couple presentations, they were, oh wow, this guy is, is good.
Legit.
And so that kind of went away after a while.
Okay.
But when I do bring people to talk that are from my facility, I have to keep in mind that these guys are still dealing with their addiction.
Sure.
These
Yeah.
guys are still in a transition mode
Right.
into being able to talk without using profanity. That's one of our rules at my house. Being able to say stuff without referring to, people that they murdered and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There has to
Right.
be a certain decorum
Yeah.
when we talk to kids. So I'm very
That's good.
weird
That's
about
good.
that because
No, it's not
you know,
weird.
I don't want to say I don't ever want to say something
Right.
that is going to hurt a child.
Of
Right.
course not.
You know what I mean? And I have to be very, very careful. And a lot of times when I speak, like I speak at a lot of adult treatment centers.
Sure.
I do a whole presentation on addiction awareness. And
Just so they can understand.
whenever I go in there and speak, every counselor in the whole building comes and wants to hear me speak because they want to try to catch me saying something wrong.
Oh,
Because this is a guy coming from the outside,
yeah.
talking to their clients,
tedious.
Right.
getting ready to teach them what they can't teach them.
yes.
Yeah.
And they want to, they sit in
wanna
and
catch you
they
out.
just want to try to catch me every single time.
But you've got it down
Sometimes
now.
there's more counselors than there is clients. And
But-
yeah, so that's how that works. I have to be very, very, very careful
But you
about
do
what I
use
say.
your personal stories, but
Of course.
you've learned how to
course.
How to tell them.
how to tell them.
course.
Yeah, I was curious about that because, like, for myself growing up, I never got into drugs. But when I had a question, and we've talked about this, like, our mother is very open and communicates about everything and anything. So I even went to her and was like, so what is the deal, like, with drugs and marijuana and da-da-da-da-da? And she would tell me stories. She didn't have a lot of experience, but she would tell me some of her stories, and then I'd have other of her friends, and I'd ask them, and they'd tell me some of their stories, and it would be enough for me to go, cool, I don't need to try that. I don't need to have that kind of experience.
Right.
So that's why it's like,
You're very fortunate.
I was
Yeah.
very
So
fortunate, definitely.
We're lucky.
here's the thing on me. So I've lived this life. Lost both my parents while I was in prison. Never ever got to become anything that was respectful or anything like that. So I had to sit
This is in
down
the
one
past,
day.
though.
I had to sit
Past,
down one day
past.
because I knew if I didn't change my life that I was going to end up spending the rest of my life in prison. And I didn't want to do that. I had already spent 22 years. I
Yeah.
was done with that.
Right.
But I didn't know how to get away from my addiction. And everything that I tried, it never worked because I never really figured out why it was those why questions, why
Yeah,
it
right.
was that I was doing this stuff. So once I was able to actually sit back and look at my life and say, okay, so what do I know that I can use to help somebody else?
Sure.
And, you know, the last thing that came to my mind, well, I know how to draw, you know, I know how to paint, I know how to ride a bicycle, things like that.
Those are good
But
skills.
what I really do know is addiction.
Right.
Because I've been
'Cause you've
on
lived it.
drugs my whole life.
Right.
And so I was able to take those things that have happened in my past and kind of put them into a backpack. Okay, this happened. Let me put that in there.
Sure.
This happened. Let me put that in there. Oh, this is some sad stuff. Let me throw that stuff in there.
Yeah.
And instead of always saying, you know, life has been bad to me, and this person left me, and this person didn't want me around, and all this kind of stuff, and woe is me, and life is never going to change. This is just, it is what it is. I was able to turn everything into a positive. Does that
Great.
make sense?
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
able to turn
Yes.
it all into a positive, and all this stuff that I had in this backpack that I've
Yeah.
been filling up my whole life is in this backpack. Big backpack. So my whole life is in this backpack, and I was able to take that stuff and use it in a way that I could help others. Because if
Yeah.
I just thought of it as helping myself, it didn't work.
Right.
Because I didn't care about myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so once I started being
It's
able
the
to help
other
other
people.
people
Yeah.
with the stuff that I'd been through and the stuff that I'd learned and the stuff that I have this you know, ability to really look deep into stuff and figure stuff out for what it really is instead of just the surface
Right.
of stuff. I was able to take that knowledge along with my education, with all the stuff that I've been through, take it out and start
Sharing it.
giving it to other people. Because when it comes to addiction, if you don't have the proper education on what addiction is, like I said, the psychological, the
Right.
physical, the euphoric recalls and all that kind of stuff that happened, because I can remember the very first time I ever smoked marijuana 40 something years ago, who I was with, where I was at, but I can't remember the second, third, fourth, or fifth time. So that first
Wow.
time,
Interesting.
that first time is where it all happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's where my brain recorded everything.
And said, "Ooh, this is nice," or
And
whatever.
ever
it
since
said.
then,
Yeah.
ever since then, any time that I was feeling uneasy or sad or something like that, my brain remembered all the way back 40 years ago. Well, I remember when you
felt
smoked
that
that
good.
marijuana, you
Yeah.
didn't feel them feelings no more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's basically how, of course, I graduated with bigger drugs and stuff like that.
Right.
And created these new points for my mind to go back to. But,
Goody.
you know, so it's important, and I'm saying this to say this, it's important that we educate these kids with all this stuff.
Yeah.
All this stuff right here is basically just a show thing. I throw it
Right.
out there. I
Yeah.
throw it out there so I get your attention with it.
Yeah.
But the educational part of the presentation is what really sticks, because I make sure that they understand how addiction works in its simplest terms, instead
Right.
of making things all
Yep.
crazy and stuff. And they're able to understand that. And then when that comes behind them and sneaks up behind them or whatever, or they get into these situations where people are saying, well, just try it one time and all this kind
Right.
of stuff. They can
Back to that.
They can understand what's
why
gonna happen.
not to do it, because this is gonna happen.
Yeah, they're gonna get.
I actually did a social media experiment, and I asked 100 people, can you remember the very first time you ever done drugs? The very first time, didn't matter what drug it was. And 98% of them can remember
The first
the
time.
very first time, even if it was 50 years ago.
Wow.
And then I asked them, can you remember the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, or seventh time? Nobody, 100% could not remember
Wow.
those.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So,
There's something about that.
right,
Yeah.
right.
There's totally, it's the knowledge. There's something about knowledge that just changes the landscape. I mean, it's so amazing that piece, having that piece of information that you can then hold on to, and it's kind of like your stable platform, because
Right.
you have that knowledge. Then you
Right.
don't go and take the stupid next step, because you're sitting there with a piece of knowledge.
Well, I mean, knowledge of somebody just telling you don't do drugs because it's bad.
No, but real
No,
knowledge.
but like
right,
actual-
right, right. That's
Actual-
the facts and-
I call it fake knowledge. I don't. Maybe it's
yeah,
not
yeah.
fake
Oh.
knowledge, but I call it fake knowledge.
Don't do drugs.
Don't do drugs.
Is
Just
that-
say no.
Well, that's not knowledge.
you know,
Those are
This
slogans.
is
Those
what
are
drugs do.
marketing
This is what
and
drugs
PR.
do to you. It's going to ruin your life. All that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Really means. I mean, that's everybody says that.
Sure.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't think one person is going to tell a child it's good to use drugs. You know what I mean? But
Not unless they're a drug
when,
dealer.
when they,
Well, yeah.
but they're going to always ask that question: why? Why shouldn't I use drugs?
Right.
Yeah.
Why is it going to ruin my life? Why can't you stop using drugs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you don't have those answers, or they don't get
The real knowledge.
the answer to those questions, then it means nothing to them.
Right.
You know, and that's why, kids using drugs is at the most highest rate that it's ever been in history.
I know it's
Right now.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right now.
Wow.
Right now.
horrible.
And
Okay.
I think there's 120,000 every year. In 2017, it was 70,000. 2019, it's 120,000 people ODing off of some type of drug. 14% are kids under the age of 18.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Okay, yeah.
crazy. It's crazy.
I know,
I could go on all day with you guys, but it's
that's
crazy.
good.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
totally know that. Definitely.
It sinks your heart a little. Your heart.
really does.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
just-
Yeah. So actually, I would like to get your information out to people if they were interested in learning more, or if they wanted to make a donation to your nonprofit organization as well. How can they contact you?
So my website is www.strikeoutagainstdrugs.com. It has my email. It has my personal information, my personal number, my address, what color my eyes are, the whole 9 yards. On there, I want
How to
people to
track
be
them
able
down.
to reach me in case they need help.
Okay.
And if I have a picture on there, so you know what I look like in case you're walking by me and you need help.
If you don't see the videos here.
And I have a lot of referrals on there. I think we talked about putting
The youth for human rights
human
stuff.
rights
Yeah.
on there. I'm still going to do that, and I want them to be able to have a place on the website where whatever kind of help they
Yeah.
need, whether it's social
They can find
services,
it.
whether it's childcare, whether
Whatever.
it's learning about your human rights, whether it's the stuff going on with psychiatric drugging, anything. under
You
the
need help.
sun.
They could
Yeah.
find that on your
that,
website.
that they'll be able to go somewhere on it, because that's what we're all about. It's, we're all about giving people a chance to not feel like life is just empty. We're giving them a
That's
chance
amazing.
to be able to feel that things good can happen in your life.
Yeah.
And if you need a little bit of help, if you need a little bit of push, that there's people out there that are willing to do that, because a lot of these
Yes.
kids, I did are we running out of time?
We're getting close. We have a few minutes left.
I did a seminar at the LA Union Rescue Mission the other night. And every time I go in there, it's the most emotional presentations that I ever do, because
Yeah.
I see these kids, I know the situation they're in,
Right.
I know what's going on with them, and they're so young, they don't even understand that life is actually good.
Right.
And life can be a blessing, and life can be, roses and sunshine and stuff, and they live in this dark world. And we're actually putting a thing together. We're going to go paint the LA Union Rescue Mission inside, because it's like a jail
Hey.
cell in there.
Oh, God.
We're going to be doing that real soon too.
Yeah.
I want to come.
And I walk out of there, and all I want to do is just grab them all and take them to my house.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Give 'em big
And
hugs.
show them something different.
Yeah.
Because whatever reason they made it there, maybe their parents made some mistakes, maybe their parents do drugs, I don't know. But, I got to sit with one of the girls, and she was like, my parents don't do drugs. They just, stuff happened, and they just lost everything. This is a little 9-year-old girl telling me this stuff.
Oh.
Wow.
And every time I go out there, there's a tear in my eye, and,
Yeah.
I want to.
Again, it's good that you
Yeah.
keep feeling it.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Keep feeling
You
it.
can't help but feel
And if
it.
people
Can't
want to
but feel
help
it.
volunteer for that too, I'm sure they can.
It's going to be posted. It's going to be
On the
posted
website.
on social media, the website. We'll let everybody know.
Good.
Because we want to get everybody in there and get involved, and because it's a lot of space that actually we're painting the whole 4th floor of that
Wow.
place. That's where they have all the children on the 4th floor.
Wow.
So on Facebook, it's Strike Out Against Drugs.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Great.
good.
So
So
you
again,
can do that.
website is www.strikeout.
Against drugs. Oh, I thought we were going to do it in unison.
Yeah, it might be harder- it might be harder to hear.
Oh, sorry. And then you can also always contact us.
Yes. Well, here we're gonna thank you, David,
Oh, you're
so
welcome.
much.
Thank you for letting me run my mouth.
I know it was great.
It was great. I got educated. It's
I know.
so beautiful.
I love doing these actually because I learn something myself every single time.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank
so
you.
it's fantastic. So just for some upcoming activities for Youth for Human Rights, there's an international summit actually happening in New York City. Happens near the end of August, and they're looking for volunteers ages about 18 to 25. If you go to the youthforhumanrights.org website, you can find out how to apply for that. You can also reach out to me personally, which you can find me. I'm on social media everywhere, Youth for Human Rights California, and I can help you with that as well. We are going to be in what's called the Fringe Festival in
Oh, yes.
Hollywood, where there's a documentary and there's a production being done, which is about freedom of expression, mostly for our journalists around the world who end up in prison for speaking truths. And we'll be there. There's about 5 or 7 different dates.
Yep. And it's all within the month of June.
Right. So if you go to thefringefestival.com, you'll be able to find Youth for Human Rights and our activities there. I believe there's a workshop on June 15th and June 22nd. So I will be delivering those workshops.
She'll be speaking there. So
I
if
will
you
be
want to see her in
speaking.
person,
Wonderful.
feel free and
You can
come.
come see me speak. It'll be fun. So again, you can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, Youth for Human Rights California. Any questions? If for any reason you can't reach David, you have any trouble with that, you can go and reach out to me and say, where was David again? And I'll connect you up. Again, we like working together.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That would be...
And if you have any other questions in regards that you would like us to answer on the radio show, or if you have a video or a clip of something that you think would be in relation to this, you can also email radio at YHR. I always forget.
Don't laugh in the middle of it, though.
Okay. Radio at YHR SoCal, SOCAL.org. And I would love to get your
Yeah,
input.
anybody who wants to be a guest, you can email her. That'll go straight to her, and she will be able to arrange for you to come talk and chat.
Yes.
We just chat. It's very,
As you can see.
that wasn't too bad, right?
No, that was good.
Okay,
That was
good.
So thank you for joining us this time, and we look forward to the next show to have everyone get more educated here.
And thank you, David.
Thank
Oh,
you,
you're
David.
welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
Now if you and I, TED, the world would be a better place, you know? As ink pulls from my pen, pain pulls from my heart. Knowing there's kids somewhere that actually starve. Take the time out, close your eyes, just picture this. No color, no hate, nemesis, or differences. TV is filling me with scenes of negativity, but we can control it if we cooperate willingly. We came a long way, but got so much further to go. Guns kill, but hatred destroys us the most. And the problem could never be solved, you see. Human rights define the word equality. If we don't respect and love each other, we're just living a lie. Because united starts with you and I, you feel me? You and I, T-E-P, a better place. This world would be. We're all in this game, can't you see? Just all a part of this family tree. You and I, T-E-P, a better place. This world would be. We're all in this game, can't you see? Just all a part of this family tree.
We all are born free and equal, free to walk and free to talk, free to dance, free to jump and free to prance. And what I'm saying, gotta keep it together, no matter how bad the weather. It will be alright, keep it tight, cause we all got our freedom rights every day, from the night to the broad daylight. Don't discriminate, learn to appreciate, so you don't have to imitate. Don't be the one to hate, it's never too late. You got the right to life, innocent till proven guilty. You can say what you like, gotta get the education, don't throw it away. Know your human rights, cause it can help you someday.
You and